welcome everyone. It's great to see that all these people is entering to this webinar. I'm Marco Nigris. I'm part of the Portugal Fintech Association team, a non-profit association, startup-centric that started 5 years ago to support the Portuguese fintech ecosystem. And since then, we've done a couple of initiatives, events, creating awareness in the ecosystem, and also we've created the Portugal Fintech report that is released every year with all the fintechs that are here in Portugal, with a top 30 of them. Our latest initiative was the Fintech House. I am glad and very honored to be the director of that hub. That its purpose is to be the meeting point for the whole ecosystem. Startups, incumbents, investors, universities, everyone that is interested to be part of the fintech ecosystem. That is a place to be. We opened our doors in January, and in less than 2 months we had 80% of the occupancy, and which was great, because we saw that a lot of startups wanted to have a physical space for them to work on the day-to-day basis, and also having a virtual membership for those that don't want to have a physical space, but they want to be part of the community. Now, with this situation, we went remote, but we are supporting the startups in our ecosystem. And with Portugal Fintech, we always had 4 pillars of action that was helping the fintechs with access to capital through investors, with our network of investing. Also connecting them with talent and with knowledge, like with different webinars and experts. Also with the regulation, that is very important in the fintech industry. With Portugal Fintech, we created the Portugal FinLab 2 years ago. That it was co-created with the 3 regulators here in Portugal. And by the way, the applications are open till the 30th. 7 more days in April. And one of the most important things right now, it's the connection to mature players. Connect the startups with financial institutions, because most of the startups of the ecosystems are B2B. And now in COVID times, we try to approach and connect to the startups and know what were the key points in this period. And one of those key points were connecting these startups and these solutions with financial institutions or SMEs. And we did this survey that has basically 2 outcomes. One is our statistics and the measures that were taken by the government to help the SMEs, and see how these measures can help or not the startups. And the second outcome was the Fintech Solutions List, a ready-made list of 40 fintechs that have solutions for this period of time. The agenda for the webinar will be on the first part, Matilde Limbert showing us the report and the impact that COVID had with the startups. On the second part, we will have experts of the industry from Accenture and also from IDC. We will have our co-founder Simao to some questions to them. And then on the third part, we'll have João Freire Andrade, our president of the Portugal Fintech Association, presenting this 40 startup list. So now I want to give the word to Matilde Limbert, brilliant team member of the Portugal Fintech Association, and also the responsible for the survey. Matilde, are you there?
Yes, hi, Marco. Thank you for the introduction. So Marco already explained a bit here the work we have done with this survey, which had the aim to understand the real impact that COVID-19 is having on fintechs, and to gather feedback on the measures that have been or could be taken. So. Just as an overview, we asked for the founder's opinion in 4 different dimensions. Firstly, the impact on their business, then also their feedback on possible initiatives that Portugal Fintech could promote to mitigate this impact. And then we try to understand the usefulness they see in the measures that were implemented by the government, and also on a set of measures that was proposed in the context of tech for COVID. So regarding the impact, fintechs are being mostly impacted in sales. So 71% of fintechs have responded that pipeline backdowns was the main impact they have suffered, followed by delays in payments from clients, and also the slowdown of responses from new investors. And if we break down here the impact in sales, we see that almost 30% of fintechs estimate this impact to be a fall to less than half of revenues. But it is also interesting to see that approximately 24% see here a positive impact and an opportunity, which also shows how their solutions can be a key for a fast track to digitization. 33% of them mentioned that it is still too early to tell the impact, so we will still be seeing some impact in the future. Lastly, as what regards fundraising, it is also important or interesting to see that only 29% of these startups was fundraising, and the ones that did see a high impact. But this could also be an indicator that some of them had already fundraised before and are now very strong and resilient to deal with these challenges. So now more than ever, it is evident that collaboration is key, which is also why it is so crucial that we tackle the main hardships that fintechs identify while trying to collaborate. And the top 3 hardships indicated by fintechs were the customer's decision process, the lack of visibility of their solution, and the need for a channel of cooperation with other players. If we look at the feedback that they gave regarding potential initiatives that Portugal Fintech could promote, the feedback was very positive, and I would highlight here the importance of the Fintech Solutions List, which will be presented in a bit, and also, for example, the creation of a channel to fast-track suggestions on digital improvements. And so overall, we see here that private initiatives have a very important role in this context. If we look at the measures that were implemented by the government and which were analyzed in the end of March, in general, all these measures were ranked as a 3 out of 5 when it comes to usefulness, which is also a reflection of the general feedback given that most of these measures do not apply to the specifics of fintechs. Even though some of them were also pointed out as useful, for example, the deferral of payments to Social Security, and also, for example, the acceleration of the payment of companies' incentives in the context of Portugal 2020. Regarding the set of measures that were proposed in the context of tech for COVID, the general feedback was that they were all very useful. And so to highlight here some of them, for example, the support of talent by creating a fast track Portugal 2020 to finance the salaries of highly qualified employees was mentioned as very useful. And also, for example, the relief of the burden with exemption of the payments to Social Security for 3 to 6 months was also pointed out as very useful. Lastly, we also tried to gather the feedback from the founders in terms of all these aspects, the impact, the current measures, additional measures, and also some doubts. And regarding the impact, it's really interesting to see here that solutions are being adapted in order to better service the financial sector's needs. So there is really a readiness for this collaboration. Regarding the current measures implemented, as already mentioned, current measures were not really addressing startups, and at the same time they can have a very high impact in all projects, so it is very relevant to adapt them. And regarding here possible steps to be taken, for example, promoting cooperation or initiatives that could connect stakeholders are very relevant. And also, for example, the creation of incentives for companies to acquire the products and services of startups, but with less financial risk, for example, through state support. And there were also some doubts and concerns, specifically when it comes to the eligibility that fintechs have when it comes to the measures that were implemented. And so our say here is join our Slack. You may find here other companies that have already gone through these processes and can help you out. And our purpose is to have here a channel where we can share know-how. And so you can join it through our website, and you can also see there a more in-depth analysis of the statistics. And I think this was a good overview of it all. So thank you.
Thank you, Matilda. I think the results of the questions that we've done to the startups are very useful to understand what are the pain points that they are having right now in the COVID, and how to support them in a different way. Now, on the second part of the webinar, we're going to have Simão Cruz, our co-founder of the Portugal Fintech Association, alongside with Luis Pedro Duarte, that is the Vice President of Financial Services of Accenture, and also Gabriel Coimbra, Vice President of IDC Group and Country Lead. And we will have a discussion here with the three of them. Simão?
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. So thank you, Luis, and thank you, Gabriel, for coming. Maybe I would start with Gabriel and IDC first. Gabriel, are you there?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Perfect. So it's great to see you once again. We had the chance of speaking this morning, right, on another webinar.
Yeah, no, it's great to be digital. Sometimes you can be
exactly
place at the same time.
Exactly. No, great to change seats this time, and I would take it precisely from there, from all the webinars you have been doing, and from all the people you have speaking with. And I would ask you, from your perspective, from what you've been seeing, what kind of main trends do you see for the future month, especially in our country? And based on it, what kinds of strategies do you advise for companies to come out of these periods stronger than they are right now?
Okay, no, thank you very much, Marco, and Fintech Portugal for doing this. I think that the most important now is to share the more information and experience we all have. It's a difficult time and very complex and unknown for everybody. So, but I'm optimistic, and I think we'll get out of this situation stronger and more digital. So I think it will be an opportunity for for everybody who is working on this digital stuff, especially for startups and fintechs. And I was talking a few weeks ago that look into some numbers, and if we look to the way all the employees started to work from home. So we had 5% of companies with work from home policies. Now we have almost 100% working from home. We saw a big increase in e-commerce. We saw, in fact, a 50% increase in terms of sales from companies online. And it shows that we in just 3-4 weeks, we leapfrog, I would say 10 years in terms of digital, at least in terms of digital mindset, because of course we are using the same technology we had 4 weeks ago. But in fact, the most important part here, and I think is the mindset. Of course, it's not clear today because we are at home and we don't know what is going to happen. But for sure, we will leave this situation and will be stronger and more digital, and for sure there will be much more opportunities for all the startups and fintechs. But let me just put in perspective some data and some work we did in the past weeks at worldwide level and also at Portuguese level. We did thousands of surveys with companies and with consumers. In Portugal, we did a survey in the end of March, and we inquired more than 500 decision makers, 40 of them from the banking sector. So basically, and it's clear for everybody and every sector that everybody believed that only in the second semester things will come back to a new normal, and we'll have to learn a lot till then. But all of them believe that nations and organizations that are more mature in terms of digital transformation will be leading the way after this situation. And looking to our financial insights research, had some data regarding how we saw this first move. So what we saw was basically the banks and insurance and other financial companies. Basically, they had a first issue that was business continuity. So we saw this work from home movement, the central departments, the contact centers. So what was a big move. We saw a big investment, or we saw banks and insurance companies working with their IT infrastructure in order to make sure that everything would be able to continue to work. The cyber attacks and the security was an issue, and also then the credit and the reputation of the brand. So a lot of things happened in 4 weeks around these areas. So a lot of risks for the financial industry, but a lot of opportunities, I would say, for fintechs to address and to help banking and insurance organizations to cope with these risks. And we also saw in the other side, from the consumer side, what we saw was everybody, we now, or we can't go out of our homes, or we have fear to be infected. So we see a big increase in digital channel, contactless payments, e-commerce, I told before. So really a big jump in terms of digital use from the clients and also from the big organizations. So just to finish with some notes and to let's then have a discussion together. What we see in terms of tech is basically a big adoption of cloud solutions for infrastructure, for contact centers, for collaboration tools. A lot of investments around AI, especially in chatbots and automating all the channels, the digital channels. some investments in the customer experience. So we see new channels, new investments in digital channels. So with this, I would say that for fintechs, we see some opportunities around this area of making sure that the financial organization can build trust with their clients and with the market. So that a lot of cyber attacks and so on. So it's a good opportunity for solutions in this area. The e-commerce, we talked about the e-commerce, so the seamless payments and online payments are on the rise. The customer experience and the online conversion, making sure that all the products financial institutions had and was converting in the physically are now moving to digital. So I think it's really a lot of opportunities. So we have the digital wallets, the biometric authentications, behavior analytics. We see a lot of now banks working with governments in order to make sure that they can give direct loans to consumers, to enterprise, to SMEs, the tax reliefs, and your survey pointed very well this issue. So I think, just to finish, I think is really a moment of truth for the startups and for fintechs, because if we are really moving to digital now, and if fintechs can create value in this new more digitized economy, they will thrive. Of course, we'll have to cross a desert in few months, and it will be a challenge for them, but for sure, the fintechs that can cross this desert and help their clients will be stronger after this. So a good future for the fintechs who can keep the business going and helping their clients to move to this new normal. So that's a few thoughts about what we think and as IDC how this will move. And hope it helps the discussion.
No, great, thank you very much. And I can tell you that here on our side, we totally agree with that. In fact, João will, right after our talk in comments, be presenting some of the solutions and some of the journeys that the startups are coming together to help bigger incumbents or even companies in the ecosystem to thrive and to move through this harder period that we're going through. So yeah, thank you very much, Gabriel. And I'll jump now to Luis Pedro. Luis Pedro, thank you very much for coming. You have been leading all the financial part of Accenture in several projects. You have a very good overview on the entire ecosystem and on these big players. So I would ask you on this hierarchy of needs that is now changing, right? And the projects that startups and bigger companies once as probably maybe shifting a bit at these times. How do you see these priorities changing, and what is the position that technology and innovation are taking there?
Thank you, and warm hello to everyone, and hope you're safe. And it's always great to see you, even it is through small screens around a bigger screen. So yes, well, let me pick a bit what Mathilde just present. I noticed that, because that pretty much resonates. If you notice, 33% of the startups say it's too early to say what is happening. So at least 1/3 is not even, for reasons that I can understand, they are not even aware, or they do not have enough information to tell us that if this is being good or bad. So my first comment would be, we have to be very cautious in saying what is really going to happen in the new normal, or what is going to be this new normal. That would be my first comment addressing a bit your second question, Simo. I would tell you that for the moment, what I can notice is everybody's really, really busy in, I would say, addressing about 2 or 3 dimensions of the business. The first is taking care of the workforce. We should not forget, and also the IDC representative was saying that most of the companies that are working in the service industry, like banking, insurance, even consultants, you know, we were very, very agile in moving our own workforce back to their homes and working from there. And if for some types of companies like consultants ourselves, that is more common, it was not so challenging. For most of our clients in the insurance and banking industry, that was not a piece of cake. That was a challenge to move people that was used to work every day on the same premises with the same infrastructure, and suddenly they had to start working remotely with some sense of urgency because we were facing a pandemic. So that was not easy, and I guess that managing the workforce was really the first dimension. The second is, as we are having some news around in different industries, I guess this has already triggered several challenges on security. So if we imagine that now everybody, most of the people are using our normal Wi-Fi's networks from our own homes, I'm sure that most of the people do not use the high standards of security protocols in what concerning data transmission, namely professional ones. So I guess that banks are addressing that very, very well. They are putting energy and efforts on that, and they are being very successful on it. And I guess the third, in which we are very, very busy, and also banks are, is in changing the processes. You can follow that by the media. The Portuguese CEO banks were in the parliament recently. So banks are changing the processes to cope with that moratorium requirements and all the processes, because now it's very interesting. Now everybody wants banks to be agile and to move fast. And a couple of months and years ago, we were just hearing that banks would have to be very cautious and be very, conservative in the risk process and stuff. And now suddenly we want banks to act as we didn't put them on the pressure of these regulatory, requirements to manage their daily life. So I think these are the three main concerns and focus nowadays. I can even understand very well that point that came from your report, saying that nowadays it's not so easy to talk with people. People are very, very busy, and we do not meet each other so often, even from, of course, a physical standpoint. So people are very busy, and it is difficult sometimes to have access. So I can very well understand the comment on your report saying it is not easy just to meet people, just starting on that very simple point. But that is crucial, especially on the Latin context, that we are very used to get in touch and to meet each other. Just one last comment before we start probably some discussion about technology. I guess we have to be very fair with technology. I mean, if we did not have, as we have, this widespread of infrastructure of devices, we would be facing a much more dramatic times. I think technology has allowed people to move back homes. Technology is allowing to have healthcare through remote means. So we are just getting on the basics. We need food, we have food supplies, but I think that we have to thank a lot of having this intensive technology in the sense that it has allowed us to have information. We are permanently updated on what is going on what is happening, and I guess that is crucial for having people on a more calm and cool way of living with this, if I can say so, on one hand. And on the other hand, it is helping a lot companies of not having more disruption on its operations. And as Gabriel was saying, we are doing right now remote operations on very different banks and insurance companies that was absolutely impossible to say that we would do it back 4, 5, 6 weeks, not months ago. And now, I guess the major change, making a bit the bridge on what is about to come, I guess the major change is now we had the proof that we need that we can act differently. If we are going to do that or not, I really don't know for the moment, but definitely we have the proof that we can do it very differently.
Thank you, Luis Pedro. Thank you for all those ideas, and I'm glad that you brought up that topic, that it's actually a bit harder to get in contact with incumbents and with other people. That was also one of the main goals of this report, right? To put these ideas together and then being able to give them visibility, to put them out there, and so that banks know, if I have a need in a certain level, credit risk, whatever it is, I can pick these companies and start acting on them. So yeah, thank you very much. And,
I can back that topic if you want, but I would stop here for the moment, just I don't know, to make the route.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, and before passing over to Marco once again, I would ask you to very quickly wrap up, give an idea that you'd like to pass to the audience on what they should do or prepare in case they were a company. And yeah, just a brief sentence, a wrap up of your ideas before moving forward and passing to João. Gabriel, would you like to get started with some wrap up? Some short advice?
Sorry, I was on mute. I think I talk about a lot of things, many opportunities, and I think it's clear, as Luis was saying, that it's very complex and unknown now, and I think the most important now is to be agile, much agile as possible for incumbents and for fintechs, because we don't know what's going to happen. So being agile and resilient is really key now. So it's important to make sure that we can survive, because we don't know exactly how long it will take to have a new normal. So we need to have cash to continue our operations and continue to make sure that our employees are safe, and we are very close to our clients, helping them to be successful. So that's the most important now, is to be resilient and to be agile. So each case is one case, and is very difficult. A lot of opportunities, big risks, very unknown situation. So be agile and resilient, and the most as possible. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Luis Pedro.
No, I guess it's interesting because we really noticed, comparing the behavior and the ability of our clients to cope with this back 4 weeks ago, when there was that sense of urgency in moving people back home. I guess that at the time everybody wished to be a startup. And so regardless the business strategy, what we noticed, there was several organizations much more able to move than other ones. And maybe this is a lesson. I mean, this is the startup model. The startup model was one of its key characteristics and definitely dimension is agility, as Gabriel was saying. Now, of course, that back 4 weeks ago, we didn't imagine that banks and insurance companies could be agile in that sense. But in fact, some of them proved that they are not so rigid as we could think of, but definitely they would be much more agile. So I think this was kind of stress test on the agility of the organizational model and operating model of the companies. And definitely, I guess that is one of the things that I could bet that on the future, we would be much more concerned in having more agile companies regardless its business strategy. And I guess this is something to make a bit the bridge between fintech startups and the incumbents.
Oh, perfect. I think it makes total sense. They're almost practically, they were literally forced to gain that agility in case they didn't have it, right? So yeah, thank you very much once again to both. And Marco, getting back to you once again.
Thank you, Simão, Luis, and Gabriel for your insights. And now, with no further ado, I would love to enter on the last part of this webinar. I would love to tell you that we have the Q&A part. So if you have any questions, we're going to have like 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the webinar to ask to every panelist here some questions. We're going to pick one or two or three. So right now, I want to give the word to our president of the Portugal Fintech Association, João Freire de Andrade, that he will be talking about the Fintech Solution List, this list of 40 startups that have solutions for this COVID period. So João.
Marco, thanks a lot for the introduction. I don't know if you can see my screen or not, but as everybody said, it's a huge pleasure to be here, speak to you remotely, and showing that all of us are adapting, and more than that, presenting the Fintech Solution List, which is an impressive answer from the Fintech community, saying that they are present and they can be part of the solution. And yeah, without further ado, I'll go to the Fintech Solution List. And as you can see in my screen, basically, the objective, like we were very straightforward in Portugal Fintech. Basically, we asked the founders what were the biggest pain points. After asking the founders, we tried to draft solutions. And one of the biggest pain points was exactly like this visibility, because basically here we are matching demand and supply. We are matching a need of digitalization, but at the same time, we get these fintechs with the solutions off the shelf. So basically, it's a win-win situation. It's very, very aligned, and it's basically an easy matchmaking point. So basically, what we try to do, it's basically with this fintech solution, putting in the same page, putting in one catalog, in one document that you're going to receive all of you via email, all the steps, and one-on-one pages. So putting one page per company, explaining what is the company, but also what they can do in terms of this answer to the lockdown, this answer to the, let's say, huge and very, let's say, important and let's say primary channel of communication, which is the digital. And basically many of these startups like answered very, very quickly. And why? Because they were ready to supply. And it's basically what we are doing today. So basically in Portugal Fintech, and Mark will end up saying this, but basically, yeah, our objective was to get you to know the solutions, help you matchmaking with that. And even if you get any other needs that's not just related with the solutions we get on the Fintech Solution List, we can try to help you answering and finding other answers within our network. So this is an impressive map, and it's an image that I would love. That it's a very, very strong image. Like it's more than 40 companies answering every sector, like from payments, transfers, FX, lending, capital markets, real estate, insurtech, alternative financing, big data, AI, personal finance, blockchain, regtech, and cybersecurity, something, one of the most important dimensions that were mentioned just before by our experts, Luis Pedro and Gabriel. And this is a very interesting map, and it's an overview of the type of solutions you could find inside the Fintech Solution List, this catalog of more than 40 companies. We have also organized, and this is the first part of the let's say the catalog. It's this one pager with the map of Portugal and with the type of sector these companies could help, but also tagged by sector or tagged by function, tagged by use case. And we get many companies, like from the automation side to the digital channels to finding a better interaction point with the customer, or a more agile one. Very interesting features also on the booking and other types of use cases. So it's also tagged by use case. I will not go solution by solution. It would be very, very boring for you, you're going to receive that on your email. But I'll try to do an exercise, like basically what we in Portugal Fintech, what we felt could be interesting to show you the powerfulness and the power of this type of solutions. We're creating bundles of solutions of fintechs and showing that together these fintechs, they are part of the solution. They are not one entire solution. It's not an end-to-end. So basically, it's a cooperation between an incumbent or with the fintechs and getting together a solution for that specific need and that specific use case of the incumbent. So we design 4 different journeys. A credit, so someone giving credit to someone. So a bank giving credit to a final customer, to a company. And we're going to place a couple of startups that could help on the process. For example, in the insurance side, we decided to put in place, imagine auto insurance, so insurance for your car. In the SME space, also like a couple of very interesting direct to SME solutions. That's a couple of fintechs just showed that they said present, I'm here to help the SMEs, and many interesting solutions. And in the consumer level. So basically, we got one example for banking, one example for insurance, one example for SMEs, and one example for the final consumer. And in a bundle level, it's pretty interesting to look at, but of course, like every organization will look at this and they will see, oh, I just did this part or the other part or the other startup, or taking into account this technology, I can apply it here or there. So basically, that's the way we're going to show the solutions. Not all the solutions will be featured here, it's just an example, but just for you to understand that you could research the catalog and find interesting use cases for you. And of course, on the catalog, all the startups are mentioned there. Then, of course, I would like to state that these are very interesting solutions for the lockdown period. That's COVID-19, and fighting this pandemic situation was like kind of sparked these needs. But I would say all these solutions will be also very interesting thereafter. It will be post-COVID situations, because I think that basically banks, insurance companies, SMEs, because nobody will try to get back after this. Like it's more efficient, it's more cost efficient, it's more comfortable, it's a better service for people. So I would say this is to stay, and kickstarting these type of products now will pay off in the future. So I think it's a good moment to do it. And fortunately, we had a very, very strong answer from the fintech saying present that they can help and getting there. Another interesting thing is there's many fintechs that, of course, they can do tailor-made adaptations. We could go for the normal route, but if you really want to be fast, like I think we should tackle for the same quality, but use faster tracks. I mean, like Gabriel and Luís Pedro were mentioning, for example, a bigger use of clouds, other processes, working remote, working at home, using VPNs, using like other types of things. And I think every organization should try to look at them and see what focus on the target objective they got. Imagine I want to increase, let's say, account opening via digital means, or giving more credit, or giving other type of products on the insurance space. Whatever you say, like imagine could be these COVID credit lines. I want to give it faster and collect the information faster. I don't know, like, but to do that in time, maybe we have to use cloud. Maybe we have to not, so basically guarantee the security, but not follow all the steps, or follow the same steps, but in a faster way. So it's kind of an invitation that on our side on Portugal Fintech, and it was one of the pain points identified. We invite all the organizations to rethink good ways of keeping the security, keeping the quality, but being faster, making the decision, but also executing and implementing. And sometimes it could be like, let's say, a proxy and an easier page, like not perfectly integrated with omni channels of the mature player, but it's working. And I think it's a little bit startup mentality. Before, like our speakers, our experts mentioned that banks and insurance look like startups looking to agility. And this is one more invitation. Let's look at the MVPs, the minimal viable products, to put something fast in the market. And so that's something I think startups, they get off-the-shelf solutions that could be very, very practical and very, at the same time, keeping the quality standards. And I would just like to mention that we are living a very, very strong paradox now, because we've never needed so much innovation, digital channels, but at the same time, we are receiving messages from investors, from stakeholders, shareholders, from regulators that we should control costs and concentrate on the core business. So where we go, and in Portugal Fintech, we are working on solutions for that. And for example, CFID proxies and trying to be a little bit more kind of de-risking a little bit the investments in these type of situations. Having already like some journeys designed, it's something that we want to help, of course, leveraging our partners, that we get lots of experts in our community, in our network, and we get very good partners to help you kind of bridging and solving this paradox, because I think like it will pay off a lot in the future. So without further ado, I'll go through these 4 journeys, day-to-day journeys, and I will then give back the word to Marco, give back the floor to Marco. So starting with the digital bundle and let's say credit journey, like nowadays that we don't get this capacity of going to the branch, like it's very important that we kind of slice down, slice in parts let's say the journey of giving a credit. So imagine I've sliced, and this is just an exercise, the journey, like starting with like customer acquisition and support, and here, as was mentioned, like solutions like Cleverly or Visor AI, they are playing a very important role helping structuring the customer support, the acquisition channel, the chatbots, like converting customers into really purchasers, like into people and leads, digital leads into that. But then, as you know, it's really, really important that we follow the rules. And in the digital and in the financial sector, it's an heavily regulated area. And even though we believe that agile and being 100% digital, it's important, like we have to comply more and more with all the rules. And it's very interesting because startups and solutions that are very, very strong nowadays, like Contractize, like Locker, that are ready to give you like support on the KYC, on identity management, on signing, even all the documentation of the moratórias of credit. It's something that all these companies, they are bringing to the market. It's already being used. It's being with lots of traction. So by one side, you could keep your digital channels, but at the same time, we have to comply with the regulation. These type of startups, they can help you doing it in a compliant way. Then if we jump into aggregation, scoring, like solutions like Think, but also the Portuguese company Happy, they are having very, very interesting use cases. And if you see in the report, for example, if you click on the page of Happy, you have really demos that you can use and see, for example, like a journey where a company could insert all their data and automatically Happy will aggregate all the information from Social Security, from tax authority, and give them in a folder for the bank to approve the credit or not. And this could be also applied to Cidades Garantia Mútua, which is also a very important, let's say, element in this value chain nowadays. So it's very interesting to see that there are solutions off the shelf. And imagine if we are giving like consumer credit, like Parcela Já, with all their point of sale solutions, it's pretty interesting. But imagine solutions like Alfredo, that it's very important also to help on the journey of making sure that the valuation of the real estate property you are asking the credit, it's really that price. So they can do asset valuation models. They can even help banks during, let's say, as you know, like the collateral of banks on one of the biggest, let's say, lines of business, which is the mortgages. The collateral, it's the real estate properties. And as you can see, and we are already seeing early signs of that, it's important that we keep doing it in a very, very tight way and very live as much as possible way, so they can see, like, and do the valuation model of the entire portfolio. Once we arrive to booking and compliance, it's also important to look at solutions like, for example, APERS. It's a solution that basically connects with your scoring models and helps you create passing from a black box solution into a white box solution. What I mean with this, it's doing reports that really show you and prove that you are not biased in your decisions and help you giving that information for the regulator. And of course, like companies like FIDE, that helps you and enable you like being compliant with all these channels, with all this capacity of working remote is also important, guaranteeing that all the protection of data and customer contacts are really in a safe space, and FIDE is really working on that space. So there's many important parts of this value chain, and the truth is that we got lots of startups, for example, just in the credit journey, that you could stock pick one of them and they could enable you and make your process faster for that. Let's pick another example, auto insurance. And here it's a very interesting case because, you know, like we've paid an insurance policy for 1 year where we get an average rate of usage of the car. But basically the truth is now it's different. Like we had the car 60% stopped. So basically we've been seeing like technology bringing very interesting approaches, like imagine telematics in the user-based insurance. So basically linking the value and the cost of your insurance to the way you drive. But here we are speaking in a much easier and simpler way of looking at it, which is the pay per mile. Why? Because it's basically, if you are not driving, there's not so much risk. So why not adapting and having a different type of insurance on that? And it's an idea that a couple of these fintechs, insurtechs gave and brought life. It's just one example, like, and picking the, let's say the telematics technology per se, like assessing the way cars drive it, fuel save more for trucks, drive it for more fleets and normal cars, let's say. They get very interesting engines, very robust, and also API, for example, which is kind of a bridge, not just on the telematics side, but also booking that, because in the end, like, it's a new type of insurance, it's a new type of process, it's a new type of product in the end. So if you need to prototype and do it fast, it's better you do with a light course. So basically, API, it's also bringing a capacity of booking that, and also Collie also got some capacities for that specific functionalities and back office capacity of managing these insurance. But of course, then in the end, and even if it's not this pay per mile, it could be other types of insurance, more on demand, it's important to charge it. So solutions like Switch and M-School, they are important to help insurance companies to collect the payments in the end. And it's the last part, like the premium payments and even the reimbursements. Of course, like, as you know, like for all these type of things, it could be a good idea, and many insurance follow like the gamification part. And that protocol, it brings interesting initiatives on the gamification side. And for example, Blower could help you like managing all the interactions and creating curated leads for this type of insurance. So it's another example, like from the customer identification, gamification, to the telematic technology to measure and assess another type of insurance, which like avoids you needing to go to the repairment store, or like you could do it everything digital, to the booking at the light core, to the payment. So there's many points here. And if you saw in the previous journey on the credit, of course, like signing documents, doing customer onboarding, you got a couple of other solutions in the previous journey. So there's many off-the-shelf solutions. Now jumping in SMEs, and SMEs, as you know, it's one of the most tackled spaces, and all of them are living real dramatic scenarios of the layoff, of asking for credit. Many of them, like we were in an economic up, and the slope of the growth of the country was up. So many of them were caught while they were investing. And it's a dramatic situation here. So many of these companies brought life very interesting solutions. Imagine Easy Pay to collect payments, and to change like your brick and mortar model into a digital one, you have to collect. So Easy Pay, they got lots of solutions for that purpose. eBirdie with FX, and as you know, like importing things, it's pretty important, and having the majority of savings as possible, it will be very important as well. Financing, for example, and companies like Prazo, which helps you on the factoring, or even PPL, they are doing lots of fundraising processes It's a little bit more reward based ones, but it's very interesting. And they are avoiding and not receiving the fee. They are giving that to the companies and to the people. On the insurance side, CoverFlex, and as you've seen like now it's not an easy one, like to keep interacting with digital, with let's say brick and mortars, brokers, and solutions like CoverFlex could be very useful to be a digital and 100% digital channel for the insurance side, and having an SME completely compliant very quickly, but also on all the motivation and employee benefits. And as you know, like more than ever, it's important to have our workforce motivated and close to us and motivated to do what they have to do. And salary fits is also in this part of the motivation, especially like as you know, like with layoffs, with lots of unemployment, will be also credit solutions will be important. And if the employer could bring this type of solution, will be very important. Invoice Express and Fact also very important for the invoicing, and from this transition from bricks and mortar to digital, it's also very important. Of course, it's very important that we keep safe, and probably it's a company that brings pen tests and all the tests to make sure that SMEs are compliant and so we are complying with all the solutions. And to finalize, basically, the last but not the least, it's of course the consumer. And in the end, consumer, it's the center of all our activity. Now I'm speaking a little bit more B2C companies, and starting, for example, from savings. As you know, it will be a challenging time. So we're helping people saving, like Utopia Solutions, Save It, are two very interesting fintechs for that purpose. Financial education and finding good solutions for that. Dr. Finance is always bringing more value and knowledge into the space, so it's a very good place to go. Impact Market, it's also interesting, like for the people with some extra pockets, could help, and good causes. It's a good way to go, and with lots of transparency since they use blockchain. And in the same line, I would say, like GoParity, that selects impact campaigns. It's also interesting, like they run a very interesting campaign for ventilators, more solutions. Like it's a good way of applying for the ones that could keep investing and supporting the economy. It's a good channel for that. But of course, student finance, financing education, and it will be very important for two reasons. One, of course, it's like we're going to have lots of unemployment people, and those unemployment people, they might not have cash to go into, like let's say, kind of a reconstruction of their career through codes, universities or codes courses, and they are a very interesting solution, which is not credit based, it's income share agreement based. So it's important for that, but also in a corporate level, like we're gonna have to reinvent ourselves, and lots of people, since we are jumping into the digital, like we should have more people with the capacity to work in this digital environment. So using this type of channels could be very interesting. And finalizing, the last but not the least, with insurance, keep warranty, and they make sure like you keep your belongings and your gadgets, everything you bought, like you keep it through a digital channel and keep it with you, but also with lobbies, which for many types of insurance, like they bundle lots of insurance, for example, cell phone insurance, and that are very customized B2C and B2B2C journeys, and very useful journeys for the final customer to, in this digital reality, face and keep having all their insurance policies in time, and the correct insurance policy. So basically, in a nutshell, there's many solutions, and I hope like I tried to clarify and to give some visibility on some types of use cases for different type of users. And but of course, like we can bundle these in different ways. We could just stock pick one, and of course, we're going to receive all this information and at your email. It will be also available on our website. It's free, and I hope this webinar was interesting and it clarifies some ways and use cases. But again, I will leave the floor to Marco. We're going to wrap up, but I think Marco will speak a little bit, because Portugal Fintech really wants to help bridging you to these type of solutions and make the most out of this, because basically we are matchmaking something incumbents need with something that startups got off the shelf. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joao, for that wonderful presentation. I think Matilda and the whole team, Joao, Simão, and the whole team behind Portugal Fintech did a great work putting all this together. I would say that right now the best, and I'm taking some questions that were from the Q&A. One of them was how to get in touch with the startups. What is the best way to get in touch with these startups? I would say that from this report that we will put on our website, just read it, see if you need anything from there, which are the most interesting solutions for you. Then just pick for your problem and ask us to give the contact or to do some meetings for matchmaking. And also there is a third point that I would love to mention, that is, if you have any problem that was not mapped out here, I'm sure that any startup out there could help you with that problem. I'm sure we could scout that startup. We have a big network of companies that are working not only for COVID, but also for everything in digitalization of financial institutions. You can send an email to info@portugalfintech.org or to my personal email too, that is marco@portugalfintech.org. And the report and the slides that were presented today, you will find them at www.portugalfintech.org/fintech answer to COVID. Now, for the Q&A, one is, are you sharing the slides? Yes, of course, we're putting that on the website. How is the best way to contact them? Through us. We just do the intro and you contact the startups. We're just a channel to reach them. The third question, are the startups Portuguese? Yes, they might have their headquarters outside Portugal, but they are operating in Portugal, or they have a team here. But yeah, most of the startups are Portuguese. And there's a question here. Do you see, and this I will leave to one of the experts to answer, either Luis or Gabriel. Do you see more partnerships happening in this period of time and in the future between financial institutions and fintechs? I don't know if Luis or Gabriel would love to take a word on that.
Olá, I can start.
Good.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question, and I think the Luis also touched on that in his point. We need more than ever agility. So for sure, I think there will be much more collaboration, and of course we don't know exactly how it will. What will happen in the next month? So of course it's unknown for everybody, and of course we need to stay alive first. But for sure, in the near future, I'm convinced that there will be much more collaboration between fintechs and financial institutions.
Yes, I can tackle a bit also. Yeah, I mean, but I'm not so sure if it is this specific situation that will trigger that. What I see is banks that will need very effective partners in to support them and in cope with this in very different dimensions. I could suspect that we will witness a growth on everything that is virtual or remote. So I tend to think that once again, and I get back to this point, once that we now have the proof that we can do much more things remotely, I will, and even because that is sustainable and eco-friendly. That is not a paradox. That is a very fortunate conclusion that we reached out. It's amazing how the KPIs on the environment, they keep increasing day after day. So if we would need, this is a different discussion anyway, but it's important that the new society behavior supported and enabled by technology. God bless somebody. Okay. So again, we should thank technology for allowing us to have this MVP of new society. So this is just an MVP. We will then see if we can deploy it to a new production model or not. On the so again, I guess definitely VR is one of the dimensions that I think that startups can help, not only for banking. I think that we can even start thinking of the branch of the future by wearing some, I don't know, glasses or a different screen, and to imagine that we are getting into a bank branch. So I think that is one of the areas. Definitely cybersecurity. I think we are far from the end of the story. I think there are even more attacks as we can understand and perceive, namely from other industries and real cases that we heard recently. Data and analytics. We can hardly wait for banks and the industry and the finance industry to be effective in using and in triggering and in offering you know, more tailored credits offers and finance products offers, and everything again that is related with communication, with workforce, with project management, all things more related with productivity tools, I guess, are key areas where startups can definitely have a higher room for progress and to explore opportunities. That those will be my comments.
Just one more comment. As I told you in the beginning, I think it will be the moment of truth. Of course, if we look in the long term, for sure, it will be much more collaboration. But I think we will now go through a time where a lot of startups will disappear, for sure, because they will not be able to sustain the business until this new normal or until the economy come back. And so for sure we will need the startups now. We'll have to have at least some critical mass in order to be able to grab some opportunities, because banks and insurance companies will not be testing some new things. They will they want now things that are working. Of course, they are willing to take some risks, but at least if they see the solution working in other clients, even in other industries. I have been talking with I talked with more than 30 CXOs in Portugal, and they, I would say, more than 50% of them are trying new solutions from, I would say, not very small startups, but startups that have some solutions already in the market for moving the contact center to home, to work with new ways to interact with chatbots, new ways to do analytics for the cybersecurity and so on. So we'll have a two stage. The first one will be difficult, and the ones who have critical mass will thrive, perhaps. Others, and a lot of them will die. And then in the future, we'll see more collaboration because we need more agility.
Yeah. Marco, can I jump in a bit to stress this? Because this is really, really relevant for the startups.
Yes, of course.
Start together with us today. I noticed, without disclosing information, that for those startups that had already some awareness in the markets, they got many phone calls from many people asking for help. And I guess those are on the percentage that that Matilde was showing us that have seen increasing their business on one way. And I would try to advise, if I'm allowed to some of these smaller startups to work together and to get critical mass. Because as Gabriel is saying, and I cannot agree more on that, they need to work together, otherwise they might disappear, let's be honest, and let's face it. So it's time for them to merge, it's time for them to join efforts and to get critical mass. Otherwise they will face very hard and difficult times, I would say.
Thank you, Luis and Gabriel. And I think it's very aligned with what Joao mentioned of the bundles. That is, those startups being a part of a solution that could be bigger with different startups in different niche of the market. Thank you, Luis, and thank you, Gabriel. And to finish, I will take one more question. That is, do you think matchmakers like Portugal Fintech will play a more crucial role in the future in convincing, this is the question, convincing institutional players to invest in fintechs? And I would love to direct this question to Joao.
Thank you very much, Mark. No, yeah, it's a great question. I think we are not speaking about investment these days. Like, let's say the venture capital scene, the investment scene, it's totally frozen for a couple of, I'd say at least 1 month, 2 months, if not more. VCs are gathering the money for their own startups. So I think the only solution for startups is sell something that they already get off the shelf. And your question regarding incumbents, like, we believe that there's different type of solutions with different qualities and different maturities. And players like us, what we are 100% doing, it's like making sure that this arrives to the inbox of everybody in the incumbents that needs this type of information. It's a catalog, and we are available to help and to show like which use cases. And we asked you guys, the fintechs, to describe what are the use cases and how they can help. Then we got a bunch of partners, very good ones that are the official partners of Portugal Fintech, from the integration side, from the strategic side, from the legal side, from the technological side, that could help you. Because as we spoke before, this is not sometimes not easy. It's not a small project, but definitely there's catalysts and there's players that not just Portugal Fintech, but also the players could help making sure that this arrives into the best. Of course, we are trying to be also a little bit pushy in terms of, by one side, making visibility on the solutions. Second, it's why not testing other types of approaches? For example, you've mentioned, or we mentioned here, using the cloud for startups. That's obvious, but for some core function of banks was not. Should we try to do it there with all the security, but to speed up a couple of journeys, even if it is temporarily? I think yes. And in the last point that we mentioned before, we're also trying to work on the, let's say, on the financial side, meaning these approaches like the C fees, etc., might be a de-risking factor that could push incumbents to take decisions now. Of course, not just for COVID and the lockdown period, but for real and let's say constant customer and not just the digital journey of the customers, but their own internal journeys. And that's pretty much what we are doing. So answering your question, yes, I think we can help as matchmakers. We are not decision makers, but matchmakers. So thanks a lot for the question, and we are here to help. So all your ideas, it's very good for us.
Thank you, Joao. And thank you everyone for taking the time of watching this webinar. I hope it helped. And on the last note, we are updating this information on a day-to-day basis. So every startup that is like joining the effort of putting the solution, we're gonna update that report. So we're directing everyone to that side. Please, if you need anything or you want to contact the startups, just let us know. Thank you everyone. Thank you thank you to the panelists and also to the attendees. Stay safe. Bye bye.